Hi, welcome to Let's Talk Careers. I'm your host, Lisa Bauman. Today I'm talking with Keri Martin Vrbanac, who is a pelvic floor physiotherapist and the owner of A Body in Motion. In this episode, we talk about how she built 2 locations, made the decision to specialize in pelvic floor physio, and develop her passion for women's health. I hope you enjoy. So welcome, Keri. Thanks very much for joining me today. I'm going to get you to introduce yourself using what I call is the James Bond style of basically introducing yourself and then moving into what I call an elevator pitch. And so you remember how James Bond introduces himself, right?
Yes.
He goes, Bond, James Bond. Well, we're not going to do the backwards way. We're going to do your first name and then a pause and then your first name again and then your last name. And the reason we do this is because we're terrible at remembering names. And so when you say it in a way that helps the listener remember, you can make a more memorable impression. So how do you feel about that?
I love that.
Okay, perfect. So I'm going to get you to go ahead and introduce yourself with your first name, your current role and something you're really passionate about.
Okay, so my name is Keri Martin Vrbanac. I am a pelvic health physiotherapist, and I am incredibly passionate about women's health.
Awesome. I know that about you. So I want to know how it all got started. And I want you to go back, as far as you want to remember, whether it was, your first paid job, maybe it was, something that you wanted to do as you were growing up, where you might wanted to, pursue something after high school. So why don't we start with that point?
Sure. Great. Okay. Well, that's a long time ago, Lisa.
It's a long time ago.
That's a long time ago. I would say it probably started, the idea of physiotherapy started probably back when I was just preteen. My grandmother was diagnosed with diabetes, and she lived with us at the time, and she needed to have daily insulin shots, and no one in my family was able to do that. So as a 12-year-old, the VON nurse came in and taught me how to inject insulin into an orange at that time. And I decided at that point that I was being called to care for people. There was something that was in my DNA that I needed to care for people.
Right.
So fast forward, went to university, and I was going to be a teacher.
Okay.
I wanted to be a teacher.
Hang on one second though. You left me hanging here. Did you actually then administer
I did.
Wow.
For many
years. At 12 years old.
At 12 years old.
Wow.
Every morning before going to school, I would administer in her abdomen or her thigh, her insulin shots.
Wow.
Yeah. And she was the love of my life.
Aww.
Yeah. So that made it even more special.
Wow.
So I did that daily. Fast forward, went to high school. She was still living with us. She passed away when I was in grade 10. So that was a sad time for me, but inspiring also because I thought, okay, I need to do something. I need to take care of people. So what I thought that calling was taking care of children. I thought it was, and I wanted to go into high school. So I thought, okay, this is what I need to do. I need to save all these high schoolers. I need to be this caring individual. So I did go to Queen's University and headed down that pathway. And then I finished in a long time ago, 1993.
Okay.
I graduated from Queen's.
Yep.
There wasn't a teaching job to be found.
I remember that.
It was the drought of teachers.
Yep.
So I planned a trip to Australia.
Okay.
And I thought, okay, I'm going to go to Australia. I'm going to give it a year. And I had participated in some physiotherapy, orthopedic physiotherapy, as an athlete. And that sort of started to churn inside of me. And so I applied to U of T. It was the only school I applied to. I thought, I'm just going to apply. I'm going to Australia, so it doesn't matter. I'm going and I'm just going to throw this application in. They accepted very few, and I was accepted.
Wow. For physiotherapy.
For physiotherapy.
Okay.
And at that time, it was still a bachelor's degree. So I was headed into another 4 years of university.
Right.
So I'd already done 4, headed into another 4. And so I contacted and said, can I defer for a year? I've got this trip. And it was basically, no, you defer, you're back in the pot and
you start all over again.
Okay. And so I thought, you know what, there's a reason that sending in this application, there's a reason that it happened this way. So I went to U of T for physiotherapy. I ended up finishing physiotherapy in Australia, which was great. So I finally did get to Australia. I finished my last clinical placement there and I traveled. And then I came back. I landed back in my hometown of Windsor and ended up working in the United States. So I cross-bordered every day. And that was just regular orthopedic physiotherapy.
So hang on for a minute. Just when you were doing the cross-border thing, were
Yes.
you working in a hospital? Were
Yes.
you working in a clinic?
Nope,
Okay,
I was
so you're
working in a
in
hospital. Yep. So I was working for Oakwood Medical Center. I was headhunted there. My girlfriend was a speech path in that organization, and they were looking for physios at that time. And because we were on the free trade, I could cross border each day. I had a TN status visa, which allowed me to travel. And it was great. I loved it. I had a great staff. I knew it wasn't exactly where I wanted to be. It was a rehab hospital, moved at a slow pace. You know me, I don't move at slow paces.
No, you don't.
So it was a bit slow, but I loved it.
Okay.
Then I met John.
Wait, how long were you at this hospital?
So I was there for about 2.5 years.
Okay.
And then my girlfriend got married, and I was in her wedding party, and my current husband was at that wedding. And I remember meeting him and saying, it's not going to work. I live here. I work in the States. You live there. No one's moving. So about 6 months later, I moved to KW.
Okay.
And started in a clinic here. And it was everything that I didn't think physiotherapy should be. So it was, I didn't love it. I felt very, like it was a bit of a conveyor line of treatment. I just didn't feel that I was able to give the care that I felt like I should give. I didn't feel like I was, and it actually made me question my career choice, to be quite honest. And I thought, maybe I shouldn't have done this. Maybe there's something else out there for me. And I remember sitting down with John and saying, and I cried a lot. And I was like, this isn't what I see my life being. And he said, well, you can go find this again, or you can do this yourself and make it the way you feel like it should be. You can take your vision of what you think physiotherapy should be, and you can create that.
Okay.
That's what I did.
That is so cool.
Yeah. So in 2001,
Okay.
I opened a Body in Motion rehab.
Yep.
And
where was your first location?
so my first location was on Victoria Street.
Okay.
So 70 Victoria Street was my very first location. I had the best landlords. I loved it. I was the first person into this plaza. So it was a new plaza. Currently today it's, well, there's a story behind that. We'll get to that. Get to that. So I was at 70 Victoria Street for 18 years.
Oh, wow.
And in the midst of being there, I was approached by some fabulous people from the boardwalk on Ira Needles in Waterloo, and many of the doctors. And they said, hey, what do you think about bringing a second clinic into here? And I was like, no, I'm good. I'm good. I've got what I need here. This is what I need. And they were like, well, just come to the meeting. Like, just come and hear what we're doing, And I was like, all right, I'll come hear what you have to say. So I went to the meeting, and, they explained the whole process and what the buildings were going to be like. And I was like, okay, great. Thanks for sharing. And they're like, okay, so now basically we just kind of pull the lease together. And I was like, whoa.
Hang on a second here.
I said, no.
Okay.
And so I went home and I talked to John, and John's like, Kara, they're giving you an olive branch. They're bringing you into something that, gives you this opportunity. And I was like, yeah, you're right. Okay, I'm going to do this.
Okay.
So the
Second
birth
clinic.
of clinic number 2.
Okay. So just hang on one second for me.
Yeah.
When you had clinic number 1, how many people did you have working with you?
Yeah. So there was 5 of us.
Okay.
And it was magic.
Okay.
It was the dream team. It was small, and it was easy to manage. And I didn't really want to be a business owner. I mean, I wanted to be a business owner because I wanted to do things and give back the way that I felt like I should be. But I loved being a therapist, and I still love being a therapist. But the business ownership side, I was like, so I can do this. I mean, I put my mind to it. I'm like, I can do this. How hard can it be?
Yep.
It's hard.
Yep.
It's a lot of work.
It's a lot of work.
But I was like, I got this. And then the expansion idea came, and it was like, yeah, I got this. I'm in my mojo now. I know how to do this. So then came in 2014, I opened a Body in Motion at the boardwalk. And that was going along great.
Okay.
And everything was wonderful. The staff expanded in numbers.
Yeah. How many did you have now?
So currently I have about 20 staff members. Yeah.
At both locations?
Between both locations.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And some of those people are contract. Some of those people are employee. It's kind of a little bit of a different spread of. So then we came to the 18-year point at a Body in Motion, Victoria Street. And the landlord had changed, and it wasn't the entity wasn't being kept up to what I thought it should be. So for me, I'm very anal. I need things to look nice and feel nice. And I want you to come into a space that is welcoming and you feel it's not clinical. My clinics aren't clinical.
No, they're not.
As you know. I want you to feel like you're coming into my living room. Like, I want you to come in and feel welcome and calm and safe, very safe. And the outside of 70 Victoria Street was taking a little bit of a turn due to location. And I actually wasn't super in love with my new landlord. Didn't feel that same connection that it had been sold out. So I thought, you know what, it's time to move. Like, it's time to make a change. So I actually reached out to my original landlord, who I started this whole process with, who still remains a very, very dear friend. And I said, this is what I'm thinking. I need a space. I need it to be standalone. It was time for me to move out of the plaza and into a standalone. And I need a heck of a lot of parking.
Yes.
And that's the biggest thing the hardest part about commercial real estate in KW is you can't get parking. So he said to me, go check out this space. Don't look at the building, because the building's going to stress you out, but go look at the area and the space and tell me if you can see yourself there. So I drove by and I was like, yeah, I can see myself here. And he said, we'll make it what you want it to be. So don't look at the building. So we took the building down to the studs and we recreated what would come to be the third clinic. But we closed the first clinic. So I was still a clinic owner of 2 clinics. But this all happened in the middle of the pandemic. So at that time, I had 3 leases that I was paying. I was being told that we couldn't practice because everybody was shut down. I had a staff that I loved. It devastated me to have to tell them, like, we have to close and, we can't pay you because we don't have any income coming in. And so everybody kind of went on, unemployment, and we did what everybody did. The good part is that after the 3 months, we were deemed essential. And so we were able to come back and practice. But I didn't want to open that clinic in the middle of a pandemic. I wanted it to be big and awesome. And the pandemic didn't feel like the right time to do that. So we sat on it for a while, sort of through those first initial months. And then we decided, okay, it's time to open. So I left my lease a little early. Obviously still paid my lease, but I was paying all the leases, so whatever. And we opened up the new place and it was so exciting. And and I was like, this is it. I'm done. Like, I am completely done with this. I'm not opening anymore. And my clinic operations manager, Trudy, is always like, I heard that at the first one. And here we still go. But we landed and I love it. And
How do you differentiate between the 2 clinics?
So we don't really, other than by name.
Okay.
We have, we call it a BIM for short. So ABIM. So we have a BIM Vic and we have a BIM BW. We do the same things at both clinics, except that my clinic at Vic Street carries the pelvic side of things, which I'm sure we're going to talk about. So I moved. We were spread out. We did have some of us doing pelvic at Vic and some of us doing pelvic at Boardwalk. And then the more pelvic became so incredibly important to me, I started to realize, like, this deserves an entity. Like, this deserves recognition as its own thing. So at Victoria Street, we call it a pelvic physiotherapy center. It's part of the orthopedic center, but it is a pelvic physiotherapy center. So we came together to allow us to collab and just kind of support each other. And, I'm so passionate about pelvic physio that I don't think it should be a room in a clinic. Right. I think it should be a space, a place, its own place. That's sort of had the rebirth of how the third clinic came around.
Okay, so let's actually dive into this pelvic floor physio and how it's a separate piece. Okay, so take me way back and be like, how did you decide to get into this?
Okay, that's also another great story.
Yes.
So I was doing orthopedic.
Okay.
And I have a very close friend who's an OB-GYN.
Okay.
And she was saying, and I actually worked with her through her pregnancies from an orthopedic side of things. Okay. So she was coming into the clinic and we actually became friends because of that. And she kept calling me and saying, I need you to do this. Like, I need to have this pelvic physio in KW. I need you to do this. And I'm like, do not have time to do this. I just don't. I'm doing what I'm doing and it's time consuming. So finally, after months of badgering, probably a year of badgering, I said, okay, I'll take the first course. I'm going to take the first course. I'm going to see what I think about this.
Right.
So I took the first level.
Okay.
And I did the next 4 levels within a year.
Okay.
Because
So
I loved it
yeah.
so much.
What year was this? When was this?
Oh gosh.
Do you remember?
This was 14 years ago. So where would that put us? Like,
it's okay. 14 years is good.
14 years ago.
Amazing.
Yeah,
okay. So then you start taking courses, you start doing more, you start practicing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So why is it so important?
Well, I think because first of all, women's health is underserviced, right? We just don't have enough resources and I should say here, I don't only treat women. So pelvic health is underserviced is what I should be saying. I shouldn't be saying women's health. I have a strong passion for women's health, but I also treat children, and I treat men. And I treat all genders. I don't want to decipher between male and female. It is deciphered a lot in the pelvic world because of the pelvis, but I like in research and such, they always speak to male and female. I try to speak to a person with a pelvis. We all have them. And there's a lot of things that go on in the pelvis that just get, I think in the defense of our in defense of our physicians, those people, they don't know what to do, right? So it's kind of a panic of, oh, you've got this? Okay. And it's like, we need to be able to have a space to say, go here, see this person. And I think the hardest challenge for me as a pelvic physiotherapist is that I'm forever educating and trying to get the word out, for lack of a better way to say it. And it's just not, people are not jumping on it, right? Now, let me tell you, 14 years ago, that was different.
Right.
Fast forward 14 years, it's totally different.
Totally different.
But we're still.
Yeah. So maybe just describe that part. What exactly is pelvic physio?
Sure. Okay.
Right? For people who may not have ever heard of this before.
And trust me, you don't know how many people come into my office and they sit across from me and I tell them what it's going to be all about. And we chat about where this is going to go. And they say, I've never heard of this, Keri. Bigger one. Why has no one ever told me about you? Right. And the desperation in their voice, it actually makes my eyes water now, because it's like, you've gone on so long. And usually by the time people have seen me, they've seen so many practitioners and they feel deflated. And anyway, that's another conversation. So what is pelvic physiotherapy? Pelvic physiotherapy is physiotherapy. It is, as we are a registered orthopedic physiotherapist, we've done all of our training as a physiotherapist. Many of us have worked orthopedically, which would be I call it orthopedic traditional, what people expect physiotherapy to be. Pelvic physiotherapy, we hone in on, I like to explain it to my patients. I say, I am most concerned about the area from the chest to the knees. So I tell clients, chest to knees, 360 degrees, because a lot of people think pelvis is just pelvis. We're diving in there. There's so many things that are, the pelvis there's a lot of things that feed into the pelvis and they're important. But pelvic physiotherapy, to identify as a pelvic physiotherapist, means that you have been trained to work internally. So you have done courses that allow you to work internally. And what that means is we work vaginally, we work rectally. This is usually where people are like, oh, right? What? But there's muscles and tendons and ligaments in these areas.
Yes.
And they don't get the attention that they deserve, right? So that is really obviously the main thing that deciphers between an orthopedic therapist. They are not, we call it rostered. So you need to be rostered to work and provide internal. You need to be rostered to provide acupuncture. So there's certain things that we have to go on to do in order to be able to provide that service.
Yeah. So let's go a little bit deeper here. Tell me a little bit more about what does the pelvic floor physiotherapy look like for somebody who is thinking about this as a career or?
Sure, absolutely. So basically, like all other healthcare situations, you come in for an initial assessment and we talk through a very extensive subjective history. So that subjective history is going to look at things like bowel habits, bladder habits, childbirth history, if that falls into place, sexual history. Are you having pain with intercourse? It will look into things like, what surgeries have you had? Have you had a gynecological surgery? So those are kind of like, I'm kind of going down my sheet and then sort of, thinking of the different topics that I talk about, menstrual health, all of the things that sort of would evolve in that area. And then we go on to do, I start with a basic physiotherapy assessment. I'm looking at posture. I'm looking at range of motion in your joints, hips, knees, breathing patterns. What is your diaphragm doing? The final part of the exam would then be an internal exam, if tolerated. And we got to remember, some people are coming to see me because they can't have penetrative intercourse. They can't use a tampon. So they're coming to see me. I'm definitely not going to dive into an internal exam in that situation, right? People are fearful. I have people who are coming to see me, as I mentioned, they have a history of abuse. This is not going to happen in those situations, right? So again, a lot of external work from chest to knees. That's kind of the area where we work. If we are moving into an internal assessment, obviously it comes with a ton of compassion and explanation.
Right.
It comes with risks and benefits explanations.
Yep.
It comes with consent.
Consent, yeah.
A ton of consent. Yes.
Yep.
And I will ask over and over.
Right.
And I actually tell my clients, I'm going to ask you often if you are okay. So I am a mom. It's what I do. I ask people if they're okay. So I kind of lay that out there right in the beginning. And I also say, please tell me if you are uncomfortable. And I'm watching facial expressions as well, right? So the one thing about pelvic physio that I think people have to understand is I am not sitting at the end of the bed staring at your perineum, right? It is not me with a big light. I sit at the side of my patients. I work discreetly under. The patient is covered. They're fully covered. And I'm talking to the patient. So as I'm working, the good news is as my hands are my tools. So I work by feel, what I feel with my hands. So if I'm working internally, if I'm inside of a vagina or inside of a rectum, and that is done with my hand, obviously, I am looking at you and I'm watching what your face is doing so that I can feel. I usually have my hand on your hip so I can feel if you're tensing or if you're getting uncomfortable. So I'm watching for all of those cues. But mostly what I'm doing is I'm talking about usually my crazy life and listening to what patients have. And I'm really kind of engaging in a conversation. And I'm saying to them, are you okay? Yeah, yesterday we went to this great thing and blah, blah, blah. So are you okay? Yeah. Okay. I'll keep talking. And, we kind of chat through what's happening. And I'm looking for also verbal feedback. What are you feeling? Does that feel tight? Does that feel sore? And I'm feeling for things like tender points. Does a muscle feel like it's got a trigger point? Almost like what you get in your neck. It's the same idea. And this is where I think people become a little bit, what does this internal thing look like? Right? Because it's all the same muscles, tendons, ligaments. It's just in a different place. And the unfortunate part is it's in a place that we have all been raised to be very uncomfortable with. And I think that's where we hit that wall a little bit. When I speak with my girls are so pelvically comfortable. I talk about everything very freely. I actually am regularly receives texts from their friends who are struggling with things and are comfortable asking me because I make it very comfortable in my home. This is a place that historically we don't go, right? So really educating people, a huge part of what I do is education, huge part. So, so you do have to be comfortable doing this. But to me, it's a part of the body and it's a fascinating part of the body. So we're really doing a disservice by not going into this area and working.
Definitely.
So that's what they can expect. Yeah. And then treatment evolves from there.
Yeah. Homework,
exercises.
I
see a patient for that initial assessment and I develop a very extensive treatment plan. And I say to people, this plan will pivot. This is what I'm thinking right now. Healing is not linear. Sometimes we're going to go up. Sometimes we're going to go down. And I will be communicating that with you as you will be communicating that with me. But and then I was talking the other day because I was saying, a lot of people come in and they think I can fix them, and I say to people in my first visit, I'm going to be very honest with you. We have just become a team.
Yes.
And if you can't hold up your end of the team, this is not going to get better. Right. I can't fix you, but I can help you fix yourself.
Right.
And there is homework. I keep it light and I try not to, I'm not sending you away with 25 exercises. That's not what's happening. But I am making you take ownership for your healing and you have to be a part of this journey.
So that's quite interesting. So now here you are today.
Yeah.
2 clinics, right? Specialized in one clinic in pelvic floor. I want to talk a little bit about lifelong learning.
Sure.
As in your profession. And you talked a little bit about that, but maybe for people who might be thinking about this as a career field, what might they expect sort of completing university and then moving into the next
Sure.
field?
Yeah. So physiotherapy now is a master's degree. So when I was there, it was a bachelor's. It's now a master's degree. And wonderfully, pelvic physio has a little bit of a role in that master's degree. So they are introducing it in the program, which is lovely. It's not a lot. I think it's a couple classes, if I understand correctly. The wonderful thing is that I also take on students now. So students can ask to go into a pelvic physiotherapy placement, which is lovely. So actually, I had a wonderful student recently. She's now working for me. And I'm hopeful that I have another student coming in who I hope will be working for me too. But yeah, so you're going to finish your university degree. You're going to know if you have an inkling that you'd like to do pelvic physio. I think it's a very personal, private type of therapy. And there are some people who are like, I'm never doing that. Right. Which makes perfect sense. I mean, one of my physiotherapists at the clinic, who's also my best friend, we did university together. She would never do what I do. And she makes that very clear. So I think if you are going to be, if it's a career that you are looking to embark on, you have an inkling in you that this is something that you are interested in for sure. So basically, in order to be a pelvic physiotherapist, you have to do level 1. And then they start you, which is through, so I should say all of my training, or majority of my training is through our college, which is called Pelvic Health Solutions. They're located in Bauman. Great, new, wonderful. I've evolved there. I'm now an instructor with them, which I love because there's my teaching kind of coming back into where I went in the first place. So you do a level 1, and after the level 1, you do an exam. And that's where you sort of start your road. That gives you the ability to roster and perform pelvic physiotherapy. That is not enough. There is
I know, I keep thinking about all the certificates on your wall. That's why I'm thinking about, you've done a lot as far as additional lifelong learning. A lot. Yeah. Yeah. What else have you done then?
Gosh, I mean, I love to learn. Please, like, to be honest, if I could have went to school always and someone paid me to go, I would have never left school. I mean, clearly I have 3 university degrees. I'm like, can I go for another degree? And my dad's like, it's time to get out and pay back some of this money. So that's probably what my stop point was. The wonderful thing is that there's so many different areas of pelvic physio, right? Like, you have your basic, but then, I've gone on to do courses. Like I said, I've done a lot of pediatric courses. I specialize in pediatrics. So our children who are bedwetters, daytime leakers, chronic constipation, these littles are suffering, and Restorelax isn't going to do it, so there is a special interest of mine. Other courses, male pelvic health, erectile dysfunction, pelvic pain, a branch of people who've had cancer and have had radiation treatments, gynecological cancers. It does a lot to the pelvis. Gosh, the list is endless. I'm trying to go through female athletes. I work with Olympic lifters, CrossFit athletes. I'm trying to go through my things on the wall as well. Like, so many different areas, but all of that is continued education, right? So the good news is, as mentioned, I love to learn. So I take courses all the time. When a course comes up and I see it's something that might interest me, I'm all in. And, a lot of that is, it's extra time. A lot of it has become virtual, which is lovely and not lovely. I still love being in a classroom with other, people but just the idea of expanding and learning and knowing more and being able to offer more. I think that actually comes from a sad place, to be honest, Lise, because some childhood trauma always made me want to be better. And I was longing to be better. And so, be everything you can be at high school and be better. And you will find that love that you're looking for. Or, go get 3 university degrees and that will make you better. And you will find that love that you're looking for. And then open a clinic. We'll open 2 and keep taking courses. And, so a lot of this comes from personal trauma, which, I don't dwell on personal trauma, but I believe it's a part of who I am. And I also believe that it makes me relate to my clients, because a lot of pelvic physio brings trauma. It is an area where we carry our trauma. And so sometimes people will be struggling with something pelvically there's so much to unpack behind that. So I think that's the other thing I love about being a pelvic physio is, it's so involved. I treat from what I call a biopsychosocial model. So the biology, the psychology, the sociology, right? I don't just look at your muscles and say, okay, this is what we have happening in the muscles. There's a lot of digging a little deeper in the central nervous system. And is it wired up? And are you did you have sexual abuse in your life? Did you have, childhood trauma that you held there? Did you have a lifelong history of constipation because you could never relax? So there's so much more to it that I think is involved. And sorry, I went on a complete tangent.
Oh no,
there.
I love that because actually it sort of ties into the thing that I was thinking about, which is like mental health and finding balance. And I think that they're all very much tied together, right?
100%.
Yeah.
100%. I think mental health is a very big part of pelvic therapy. And I had a visit with a client yesterday, and I didn't even touch her from a physiotherapy perspective. We sat and we talked about, okay, when you are laying there at night and you're perseverating about this pelvic pain, what can we do to manage that? And it was more about calming the central nervous system. And what about, box breathing, or what about, I have a lot of tricks of the trade. I've done a lot of therapy. I've traveled the road of therapy myself. So I'm quite good with therapeutic suggestions, which has made me a better person. I'm grateful for every ounce of therapy I've ever received. And I'm grateful that I can share that with people.
Yeah.
Laying there thinking about, okay, what's 5 things you can hear right now? What are you smelling right now? And just trying to get your mind off of that pelvic pain.
Right.
Because it's such a big collaboration. And I explain to people that pain does not necessarily equal tissue damage. Right? So we've got to look at it it's such a multifaceted area. So when we talk about this, all of these courses and stuff, this is where I'm trying to say, okay, learning a little bit more that I can pull into my practice. My staff makes fun of me. Oh, another course. Awesome. Another thing you can offer. So the wait list gets longer. And, and I'm like, I do have a wait list, but I feel like and I don't want to sound, I don't know if I'm going to say it because I am who I am.
Yeah.
I'm worth the wait.
You're worth the wait.
I'm worth the wait.
I can attest to that.
Yes, I have worked really hard.
Yes, you have.
To be able to really take care of people.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I'm fixing people and I'm helping people fix themselves, but I'm changing people's lives. I could fix a knee and ankle. I could do that blindfolded. I could do, and I could get you back to the race, or I could get you back to wherever I had to get you back to. But I'm working now in a situation where some people are leaving their homes. They don't leave their home because they're fearful of leaking urine. So they won't go anywhere. And now it's like, okay, you're leaving. You went to the grocery store. That's amazing. And to some people that would be like, we take those things for granted, right?
Yeah.
Like that's.
Do you, I never thought of this question before, but do you kind of maybe refer folks to different places if it sort of feels like it's a little bit outside of your scope?
100%.
Yeah.
I stay in my lane.
Yeah.
I'm a lane driver, and once it's past my capacity, and I'm not a therapist. No. I'm not. I don't have training to be a therapist. I have an incredible referral village of people that I trust wholeheartedly. And I also build in that village by clients coming to tell me and say, I'm seeing this person, and they're really awesome. And I learn about that person and then they become a person that I will go out and seek out and introduce myself and meet and ensure that, they are a person who should be a part of this referral group. So absolutely. I am not I can take it to a certain level, and then I'm like, okay, it's time for us. And I've said to clients before, you know what we're going to do? We're going to save your money. We're going to put pelvic physio. You're going to take what you've learned from me so far, but we're going to use those finances to go in a different area.
Yeah.
And I'll be here
and come back
when you're done.
When you're ready.
I'll be here when you're ready. And that part is feeling like you have, more control over it.
Yeah.
But I'm not your person right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I'm going to find you your person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears just a little bit because, you've got a lot that you're balancing, right? You are a practitioner, but you also are running a business. Mm-hmm. And I wanted to sort of talk about, I think about people who they're entrepreneurs. They're just building, it's like, I don't know, Apple or Elon Musk, right? We often don't think about, people who are
just regular people.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm like, I've got a business and I'm also this. So maybe just talk a little bit about that journey to you sort of becoming an entrepreneur,
Yes.
a business owner. Maybe you could talk a little bit about, mentoring, or like, how do you do that? Like, how do you balance all that? And also I want to dive a little bit back to what you said about your husband encouraging you to start this business, because it feels like a pivotal moment, right?
Huge moment.
Yeah.
Huge moment in my life. And I'm super grateful for John, because he is my biggest cheerleader. And he is, he has to live with me, which is not always easy. I consider it two careers. I really have two careers. Like I'm a business owner and I'm a practitioner. I definitely love one more than the other.
Okay.
I love being a practitioner, and that fills my cup every single day.
Right.
And so that career it was meant to be. Like that was my calling in the beginning, was, as I said to you, take care of people. Maybe because I felt like I needed to be taken care of. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to give this back to people. So that part of the career comes very easy to me. A lot of work with, the work that I do with my clients and all that stuff, that part comes easy to me. The pivotal moment to become a business owner, that was a tough moment. And, a business owner with a staff of 4 versus a business owner with a staff of 20, right? So I legitimately took a course at the business center in Kitchener.
Okay.
I went to this course.
Okay.
I can't exactly remember the title of the course, but I was like, okay, well, I'm going to be a business owner, so I better go take a course.
Yeah.
Right. And I was just like, all right, well, this is what I'm doing. I'm going to establish myself as an entrepreneur, as a business owner. And I think I had all of the skills around the drive and the passion and all of those things to do it. What I needed to know is like, what do I do financially, for example? The awesome part of that is that John is a numbers guy. So John does all my books. So he supported me in that. And I remember I had to write a business plan. This was what this course was. You need to write a business plan. I wrote this 20-page business plan, and I did not need a loan from the bank, because my dad, who is my second biggest cheerleader, or in tie for first, said to me, I'll lend you this money. And it was a loan, and we signed the paperwork, but it made me not have to have this big, interest. There was interest,
yes.
but it wasn't big.
Yes.
It was dad interest.
Yes, I understand.
And but I wrote the business plan anyways, because I thought this is what I would be doing. And I gave it to my financial advisor, who at the time at the bank, and Karen read it for me. And I didn't need any money from her, but I asked if she would read it, and she did. And she came back to me and she handed me the business plan, and she said, "You got this. You're all set." And it was like, okay, I can do this. So I started to build this clinic and design it. And I sat there, and I remember the very first day, through the process of building, I was sitting there one day, and a woman walked in with her daughter, and they're still clients of A Body in Motion. That makes me want to cry. She was like a 14-year-old girl at the time. She's now married and has babies. But she walked in on crutches, and she said, "Are you open?" And I wasn't, but I was like, "Yep, I'm open. Come on in."
Let's get started.
She was my first client.
That's amazing.
And I would sit there in the early days, and I would think, please God, send me clients. Like, just let this work. Like, please let this work. And it just started filling up, and it filled up fast. And I worked from 6 a.m. till 7 p.m. every day, plus till 10 p.m. There was nights I slept at the clinic. I slept on one of my treatment beds in my office because I had to be back there so early. It's like, well, no sense leaving. Yep. I kept my little uniform in a bag. And so, that part evolved. And now I'm at the point where I have these two careers, and, people call it a midlife crisis.
Okay.
I am not in a midlife crisis. I'm in a midlife crossroad.
Okay.
Okay. I'm
What's
in a
your
midlife crossroad.
Okay.
So I still love the practitioner part.
Yeah.
I don't love the other side as much as I used to. So my passion has wholly shifted, and it doesn't mean anything's going to change.
No.
It just means I'm tired.
Yes.
I'm tired of this career over here.
Right.
And I'm still going to keep doing it.
Right.
And I'm going to do everything that it involves. And I'm not going to make anything less than what it is, because I love what I do.
Yeah. So how do you find balance in all of this?
I struggle with balance.
Okay.
I mean, it is definitely something that people will say to me, I hear it all the time, Keri, balance. My staff will walk by my office, go home.
Go home. Yeah.
You need to go home.
Some of your clients do the same.
Yeah, clients do the same. Keri, you need to go home. Why are you still here?
Yes.
And it's like, I don't feel unbalanced. Like I feel like I have always been a wonderful wife. John may agree or disagree, but I feel like I've always found time for my husband. I really am a great mom. I feel that in my heart and soul, and I believe that my children would say the same. I never miss anything. Mm-hmm. I travel all over the world for all kinds of things for them right now. Carly is a rep volleyball player. They both danced as young girls. I never missed a thing. I worked on the road and my computer came with me. I think I'm a good boss. I try really hard. I don't even like to call myself a boss. I think I'm a great coworker who pays the bills. That's what I refer to myself as. Do I sleep a lot? That's probably where I struggle a little bit, but I work out every day. I give myself self-care. I'm okay with my balance. There are times John looks at me, and particularly in relation to Ella coming into this profession and being a business owner, and he says to me, do you want this for her? Like, I'm looking at you right now and I'm wondering, do you want this for her? And I said, my goal is to make this easier for her so that when I exit stage left, her path is paved. I've learned all that I need to learn, and I'll be able to give her the education should she choose. I always tell her, if you want to do this out, great. If you don't, great. I'm happy with where I've brought a body in motion to. Would I love her as a succession plan? Sure. I'd love for a body in motion to go on forever. I love it. I love what it is. I love it. I've created something that I think is really fantastic.
Yeah.
But I'm okay with my balance.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome.
So I find ways.
Tell me a little bit more about the decision to bring on Trudy. You referred to her as the operations.
Yeah, she's
right?
we gave her the name COM, Clinic Operations Manager, because she needed a title.
Yes.
Right? Every business needs like important people.
Yeah.
So So Trudy actually started with me part-time.
Okay.
Trudy was tutoring. So Trudy and I also are family friends from many, many years ago. Trudy's sister is my best friend. And so I'd known Trudy, and she was tutoring my kids. She was a teacher, and she left the teaching field to raise her children. She was tutoring my kids. She said, what do you think of me coming on in the evenings as a receptionist at the clinic? And I'm like, really? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then she is like, Lisa, I could not live my life without Trudy. She is my right-hand girl. She's a step ahead of me all the time. We don't have to speak. She reads my mind. I couldn't do what I do without her. So when we talk about being an entrepreneur and being, a business owner, you need people.
Yeah.
You need your people.
Yeah.
She's my person.
Yeah. 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 That's it's good to recognize that when you get to a certain point that you can't do everything.
That was hard for me.
Right? Yeah.
I'm not a good delegator.
Okay.
It was hard for me. It's still hard for me.
Okay.
Like, she still will say, let me do this.
Right.
And I'm like,
okay.
Yeah. But I have I have an incredible management team. Mm-hmm. My staff doesn't need to be managed.
Right.
They don't need me.
So let's dive into that a little bit as a hiring manager.
Yes.
Right. You're bringing in people into your team. How do people find you? How do you find people? And what do you look for when you bring in people?
So we have interesting interviewing situations, I like to call them, because I don't interview in a typical interview manner. I don't follow, so if we're looking for, and it really depends on the position, right? So if we're looking for physiotherapists, it's a little bit of a different avenue, more from a professional type. We go to our universities, we kind of look within there. If we're looking for support staff, administrative, those types of things, we often use Indeed or, the tools that are available to us. And then Trudy will review resumes, and sometimes billions of them. And then we set up our interviews. And my interviews are very comfortable. I've had many people say to me, like, this just didn't feel like an interview, because I don't sit there and fire off, administrative questions at you. It's more of a conversation. I can truthfully say that I don't hire people specifically based on their talent. So I believe that as a physiotherapist, you know how to be a physiotherapist. You went to school, you studied, they graduated you. Obviously, you did okay. I want to know if you fit in with my family. I want to know if you fit in with my team. So I ask some of the typical questions, but I ask a lot of questions that really filter into who are you as a person. So the running joke for 23 years has been at the end of every interview, I will ask the candidate if they could be any fruit, what would they be and why?
Okay.
And this has gone on to be like, I've had past employees meet each other in other situations and say, oh, you
What
worked
was
at a
your
body
fruit?
motion? What was your fruit? That's exactly what they say.
Okay.
Just trying to dive in a little bit with what is this person, what are they? I was asked this question once in an interview when I was at Queen's. I wanted to be the social convener of the Frosh Week committee. I know you find that shocking. And so they asked me, what fruit would I be? And I immediately said, I would be a grape. I want to be in bunches. I want to be with people. I want to bring people up.
Okay.
So I that question always stuck with me about how much you could get from someone.
So what do you unpack it for a little bit? What are you looking for when somebody gives you an answer?
Yeah, I'm looking for, so first of all, I'm looking for compassion. That's one of my highest qualities. Like, are you a compassionate individual? Can you work with a team? We are a huge team. I don't even call us a team. I call us a family because I spend more time with these people than I spend with my whole family. And I cry with them and I hug them and I celebrate the births of their children. And, this is my family. So I'm looking for someone who will come into the family. And I can tell in an interview immediately. I always tell people, the first thing I say is, you need to relax. Just relax. We're just going to talk, right? We're just going to talk. And I want someone who can come into a situation, be themselves. And I look for raw and real and, the qualities that are going to come out when you're working with clients. I mean, my clients know me, everything about, sometimes John will say, did you tell them that? I'm like, of course I did. What are they going to do? Judge me? I'm not worried about that. 53, I'm beyond being judged, but he's like, you share so much with people. And that's what I'm looking for in a candidate. Like, I'm looking for someone who's going to come in and they're going to share with us, right? And they're going to bring every part of themselves to work, because I don't want you to be someone different at work than you are at home. Yeah.
So thinking about your role as an entrepreneur and what you're doing for your, sort of building your business, tell me a little bit about the ways that your business and you personally support your employees in their careers.
I love that question because that is one of the most important things to me in all that I do, in being a boss girl. As I mentioned earlier, I consider myself a coworker who pays the bills. So I don't put myself above my staff. There's no hierarchy at a Body in Motion. Doesn't matter what you do. We all change the garbage. We all clean the toilet. I work very hard to make my staff feel as though they are appreciated. And so whether that's a big thing or a little thing, I do say thank you to my staff every day when I leave. I feel like that's very important that I thank them for an awesome day. I try to, like little things. I mean, things that I assume most bosses do. I gift when I can. I leave little treats when I can. I do a lot of hugging. I welcome them into my office in a way that they're not coming into the boss's office. So if they need, if something at home is not working the way that it should be, they've had an argument with somebody or whatever, they are very aware that my door is always, always open. I strategically put my office in the middle of my clinic. I don't know if you've ever noticed that.
Yeah, I did notice that.
I am in the middle of the clinic. So I can be, people can come into me from either direction. And it also allows me to hear what's going on. And so I can pick up on something if I feel like someone's not feeling the way that they should be, or I try to be really intuitive and provide the support. I will be the first person to say, get out of here. Time to go. Today's not your day. We got this, or, someone's child's, Catherine's child was hit yesterday by a ball at school. Off you go. We got this. We got the front desk. We just pull together. So I really try most to ensure that they are aware that they are a part of my family. And I love them all. I love them like they're my kids. I mean, and some of them could be my kids, actually, most of them. So for me, it's just having them know that when they come to work, they are loved, they are in a safe space, anything goes. So if you've got to come in my office and rant it out and then put back your smile back on and get out there and do what you do, then that's what I want them to feel like. I just want them, and I want them to feel like an equal. That's important to me.
Where do you think the industry is going? Where do you think sort of the physio, pelvic floor industry, the helping industry is going?
Yeah, I think it's exploding.
Okay, why?
I mean, we've got an aging population.
Okay.
So I think that's one of the biggest reasons why we will always be in need. We will always, I believe, be essential. People are looking for, people are becoming more mobile. They're looking for movement. They want, self-care is big, right? Everyone's pushing the self-care movement. And I think that's fantastic. And I think people will want to take care of themselves, and especially as they age. And in pelvic health, that's a really big thing because, you know, we go with the common notion that, oh, well, you've had a baby, so you leak pee. You know, you're 90, so you leak pee. You don't have to leak pee when you're 90. You don't have to leak pee ever. Right. Like it's not something that we just need to accept, right? That this is what's going to happen. So that's a big thing for me, is that I think we're only going to get bigger and better and more to offer to our aging population.
Yeah. So what's next for you then?
Well, I don't know what's next. I do have some things in the works. Nothing that I can throw out right now, unfortunately, but
not even a hint.
There's going to be some changes. Okay. Yeah.
All right.
Awesome, amazing changes.
Okay.
I'm growing as a person, and my daughter Ella is studying kinesiology right now, hoping to be a physiotherapist. So this was a big pivot also in my, next 10-year plan. What was I going to do in the next 10 years? I don't know. I don't look at the word. I don't entertain the word retirement because I love what I do. Right. So some part of me will always do this career, this side, maybe not the entrepreneur. At some point I'm going to hopefully hand the reins over to Ella if that's what she wants. Yeah. She talks and that's where she'd like to go. I see myself in this position I've still got a good 15, 20 years in me. Not as much as I work right now. I definitely don't want to do that for 15 or 20 more years, but I still love going to work every day. There isn't a day. There's days I wake up and I'm like, whew, I'm pooped, but I still get in my car and I still love going to work every day. So yeah. Things are coming. I've got some ideas. My brain is always spinning. I'm actually going on vacation tomorrow with Ella. And my staff always panics when I go on vacation because they know when I come back, I've had some time to think. And it usually means, oh my God, we're going to get a disco ball in here. Something's going to happen. So that's where I'm headed next. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. What gives you hope?
Oh gosh, that makes me want to cry. I think what I receive back from my clients every day, a lot of times I feel like I'm going to cry. A lot of times they will express such that I've helped them so much. And I will often say back, you really just don't know how much you've helped me. You really don't know what you've brought to my life. So I have hope. I see hope in the future. I see hope in the love that people are giving each other right now. I see hope in the fact that I do love my patients. I really create these relationships. And one of the things, Lisa, like when I was a student, oftentimes my preceptor would say, Keri, you care too much. You got to lay some boundaries down. Like you're not going to survive if you continue in this capacity. And I would always look at that as a strength versus a weakness. And I never put those boundaries up. And sometimes that does bite me in the butt. Almost said a swear word there. That does bite me in the butt. But I do believe that makes me the practitioner that I am. So I see hope in caring for one another. And I do believe that we are struggling in that capacity in society right now, in caring and loving and taking care of each other. But I believe that is the ultimate goal of humanity, is to take care and love each other. And that's what I'm going to keep doing.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Wow, what a great conversation. Thank you for listening to this episode of Let's Talk Careers. If you liked this episode and want to hear more, follow us on Spotify and subscribe on YouTube. See you in the next one.